Aye, Kev, let's fish.
Oh, geez, what is he doing?
Good way to start the week, isn't it, Kevin?
Beats a day in the office, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I get the feeling that you might be the White House to my Mortimer today. So should we have a bit of a competition then?
Yeah?
So what are we doing? Number of fish or weight of fish? And the loser has to deliver the next production training session.
Well, in here, I think we'll go for biggest fish because it's it's a carp fishery really. So
Biggest fish, okay,
yeah.
we're on.
What have you bought then, Stu? What's all that nonsense down there?
Well, the important thing is, I've got my shades, so I look cool.
Right.
So I've got those. That's more like it. Got a bit of Spam,
Nice, classic fishing bait.
in case I'm hungry. Silverfish ground bait. Absolute quality. I'm quietly confident, I've got to be honest. It's not about the fishing, is it, Kev? It's about the sitting. It's all about the sitting.
Yeah. And one of the things you hear is that fishing's boring, but people who say fishing's boring have kind of missed the point, really.
Absolutely.
It's not really about catching fish, although that obviously is a bonus, but it's about this and just sitting and being still and doing nothing. We work in an industry where, I mean, it's very rare I'm on site and somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey Kevin, everything's going great. I just wanted to let you know." You know what I mean? It's constant.
No one comes to a TD with good news.
No, and that's fine, and that's what we get paid to do. But you know what I mean? I think I've talked about it before about recharging your patience, because you need a lot of patience to, and you can only do that for so long without doing something like this. There's an organisation called Tackling Minds, which are doing a lot of good work with men, mental health and the benefits of fishing and just being outside, I guess, and away from work and pressures of whether it's work or modern life, I guess. But yeah, they're worth looking up.
So obviously we both work in production and we're gentlemen of a certain age now, I suppose. How many years have you worked in production and events, and how did you get into it?
I've worked in events all my life. Like, I was doing like sixth form plays and stuff at college and school, mainly just to get out of doing some work. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school. Like, I ended up going to college and doing electronics, and then sort of carried on messing about with bands and doing sound. But yeah, I think everybody of our age in the industry that I know of anyway sort of fell into it. There wasn't events degrees and stuff you could do like that.
I think there's a big thing about people maybe not talking about that, but kind of encouraging that there's more professional routes in and turning it into more of a career than something that you've fallen into. I was the same as you. I very much fell into it. But yeah, I think there's very much now a push for people to see it as a career as opposed to something you fall into. And there's an organisation called Production Futures, and they're doing some great work around the country and encouraging apprenticeships and things like that. So I think they're trying to get the industry out there as a real profession and career for people to follow.
Yeah. I think what's been lost maybe, if anything, is people doing degrees and not having the grinding and the experience that we had. Not because of anyone's fault, it's just the way, obviously, you come out of school, do a degree, and then you do really need in this industry the on the ground experience. And like, I know loads of guys who've come up even from like local crewing and stuff like that, and it's just so important to get that experience behind you. I spoke about before about failure, and you know, nobody wants a failure on their watch.
But you learn from it, don't you?
But it's so important. You know, some of the things that's happened to me in events over the years have really, you know, taught me more than anything, really.
I think it's failing with that support around you as well, isn't it? You know, everyone wants everything to go well, but I'm the same as you. There's some things that happened on events of mine in the past. I remember trying to beat the sunlight with a projector back in the day, and you know, nothing's brighter than the sun. Simple things like that, you remember things like that and learn from it. And I think apprenticeships give people a good grounding in how to actually deliver events. Event degrees are brilliant, not saying you shouldn't do them, but the practical is as useful, if not more useful, than the theory.
Some of the best production managers I know are people who have come up through the ranks, because they've just got, you know, those years and years of experience of tech in, and I think that gives you more sort of respect on site as well, because the techs know that you've been there and you've done it, and you know that what issues they're facing.
I've heard people say there's a bit of a skills gap now, generational age-wise. Do you think that's true, or do you think it's because we're of a certain generation, a certain age, that we tend to know people of a certain generation, a certain age, so it kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, and if we were 20 years younger, then we might not have that thought and conversation? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think there is an element of truth in it. I think there's an experience gap. I think there's a lot of bright young people out there who, are brighter than I ever was at their age,
Surely not.
with the tech and stuff that's out these days. But it's just making sure that they've got that grounding and experience, and that's why I think those apprenticeships are really key. And it's how, I'm not sure how you do a production management apprenticeship, you know what I mean? It's quite a senior role in it, just by definition, but there's definitely a place for mentoring.
Yeah.
Something I'd love to get into, and like supporting people wanting to make that jump from tech into production management.
The older I've got, the more I'm a bit more passionate about wanting to help people come into the industry. People ask me sometimes, what do you do as a job? Or I explain what I do as a job, and I kind of say, I couldn't do a real job, because it doesn't sound like a real job at times. It is fun. It's hard work, it's long hours, it's sometimes a lot of pressure, because you're going from event to event to event, but you're producing events for clients who might only have 1 or 2 events a year. So this is the biggest thing in their commercial career at that point, whereas you just come off the next one, or you're going to the next one, come off the first one. So you need to kind of carry that calmness, but understand also that to the client, it's everything. So there's kind of a bit of pressure that you need to manage yourself.
Yeah, I mean, as a career, I think I wouldn't, like, the opportunities it's given me for travel. I mean, I've stayed in the best hotels in the world.
Yeah.
I've travelled, first class, business class to places, and had all sorts of opportunities so, it is a great industry to be in, and, we should be encouraging people to do it. It's just how you do that in the modern world, which is not the world we came from.
I think both you and I have been very fortunate in the fact we've done a lot of travelling, and I think that doesn't just necessarily grow you professionally, it's personally as well. I'm a very different person, having seen a lot of the world, fortunate enough to see a lot of the world, than I was fresh out of college in Macclesfield at 16 years old. So I think that education piece, both professionally and personally, if you can get to the world of events, it's a fantastic thing to take you, build you up as a person and professionally.
It is a work hard, play hard industry. Do you know what I mean? It's not 9 till 5, and I've heard people who've just started industry saying, what time are we going home, when they've not even started work yet, and it's like, this probably isn't for you, because it's like we go home when it's done. And sometimes, hopefully not a lot of times, but we've both had jobs where we haven't been home because
haven't slept all night.
It's gone wrong.
It was interesting you said about work hard, play hard, because what I've seen, again, could be generational, but I think especially over the last 5 years, it used to be a work hard, let's be honest, almost drink hard culture. And I think that has definitely tempered. And I think that part of that is the youngsters coming through, and they have changed what they expect from their work-life balance as well. And they want to go home fresh and awake and being able to function.
I mean, play is a all-encompassing word, isn't it? Work hard, play hard. I mean, it could these days mean work hard, and then you get to go out and spend some time around a city that you've been paid to be there, effectively on holiday as such. You might be travelling home the next day and have to wait for a flight of a few hours where you can go and visit a cathedral, or you don't have to be in the bar. If you work hard, the opportunities will come to you to do some amazing things.
Yeah, that's the travelling piece now. I think the younger generation, I know I'm the same now, when you travel to these places, you want to see them.
Yeah.
When I'm out and away at events, sometimes I'll try and see a band if someone's on, if I get a chance, or I'll just do something at the end if I get to tag a day on. I've been fortunate enough, I've fished in the Arabian Gulf and got some barracuda. And then in Miami, I did some fishing there off the back of a boat, trying to get sharks and stuff. It's amazing. So obviously, I've freelanced and also been full-time as head of production, kind of gone agency and freelance again a few times. You were freelance for 25 years. What made you decide to join Fresh?
I'm asked that question a lot, and I mean, freelance has given me some, incredible experience and opportunities. But it was like I hit 50. It's like, am I just going to carry on doing this, and that's great, or am I going to try and challenge myself and do something else? And really, it goes back to that, bringing people in the industry and opportunities for maybe mentoring people and getting involved in the universities. And I think that's, I think anyway, easier to do if you've got, a position at a company.
I think jobs, your involvement in jobs start earlier and finish later when you're internal as well. I mean, I was freelance for about, I think, 4 years, 5 years before I joined Fresh. And I wasn't thinking about going full time anywhere, to be honest, but it was the organisation and the people there. There was a particular moment, I think, when I was brought in to work on a pitch. We were all on a call, probably about 10 people, sat on a call, and this gentleman read out all this knowledge about what we need to know to be able to deliver a successful pitch to this client. And I thought, wow, what an investment Fresh are putting in to finding out about how best to approach that client and deliver an event for them. That's the kind of organisation I want to be a part of. So that was kind of a really big tipping moment for me when I heard that and was part of that. And I thought, yeah, if I'm going to join somewhere full time, I want to join somewhere that cares that much about the events that they do.
Yeah, and I think there's also freelancing can be quite, lonely. I guess it's an extreme word, but at times, because you're just dipping out of a project and you don't really have a team, a permanent team anyway. So the old classic freelancers Christmas do, where you sat at a bar on your own. It is nice to have people around you, especially when people are starting to go back to the office. There's massive and different opinions about whether you need to go into an office or not. But I think a few days a week is a good thing to try and build that team back up. Because I work for a lot of companies freelance where I was entirely remote. And it sounds idyllic at first, but it can be quite hard work on a project level, especially because you just don't know what else is going on until sometimes it's too late.
I think you're right. I think there's an ideal balance, isn't there? Because there's certain work, like if you're working on a budget, possibly, or a CAD plan, then ideally you need a bit of time and space to be able to do that. Maybe even a production schedule or a TRO. But collaborative working on a project is going to be better for the project and also better for training individuals on it. Because if everyone's working on their own in isolation, you can't really get collaborative working over that Teams call. So those project meetings where you're face to face, you're going to learn more from the other people that are there. And if you're in a training or mentoring role or management role, then that's where you're going to share that knowledge with people. So there is that balance. But I can see why, I don't think necessarily fully full time is a good thing, and fully remote is isn't a good thing either. But that hybrid balance seems to be a sweet spot.
Yeah, I think it's especially true for me. It's like, I mean, most of my best CADs, if there is such a thing, are done late at night.
Sound like an artist.
Yeah. But CAD is something where you need to. I guess it's bordering on the level, on the edges of creativity. Although I never call myself a creative. I am a tech through and through. But you either get into a CAD and it starts to fit together and slot together, and you just keep working. A lot of times, Lisa will come down and say, it's midnight, and it's like, yeah, but
you're in the flow.
You're
in the creative flow.
About a naff word, but you know what I mean. And I've very rarely managed to do a huge amount of decent CAD work in an office because there's just too many distractions.
Yeah.
So there is definitely a place for both. Budget share is another one where you need to get your head into figures, but I think there is definitely a place for both, and doing all of one or the other doesn't work in our industry. So that's great that Fresh have, obviously there's an ideal set for a number of days in the office, but it's flexible as long as you've do what you need to do.
So obviously we've seen a lot of changes. People always ask when you're talking to clients, talking in production meetings, etc. I often hear, what's the next bit of innovation? Where do you stand on the next exciting bit of tech?
I mean, the obvious one is AI, and there's a lot of talk around that at the moment. I think you're dead right, though. I often get asked, what can we include in this pitch that's the new tech? And it's like, that's totally the wrong way around of doing it. You need to try and understand the problem and what the messages you're trying to put across, or what environment you're trying to create in whatever job it is, and then look at the tech to help you do that. I think trying to shoehorn tech into pitches because it's the latest and greatest new bit of tech almost always ends up in failure.
It's tech for technology's sake, and it doesn't deliver necessarily what at the outcomes that the client needs. So what kind of challenges do you think we're facing from a delivery viewpoint when trying to support our clients with production management, technology, and also stretch into creativity? Because obviously we're tasked with kind of bringing creators' visions to life on site, aren't we?
We are, and I think 3D modeling and VR and AI has got a big part to play in actually putting clients in those environments. To be able to put a client on a stage and say, this is what it's going to look like, and this is what everyone's view is going to be.
Yeah.
Or to previs reveals, and actually move a car or whatever it is and show the reveal. And it also saves a lot of problems on site because, it is incredibly accurate and lifelike.
Yeah, I think from pre-visualization viewpoint, it can help a client realize why they might need speaker coaching, for example. So if you can pre-visualize them on a stage, a 360-degree stage or something, imagine this is your CEO or head of marketing, whoever it is, they're going to have to address these people in 360. How do you think they'll feel? Are they comfortable doing that? And they'll go, maybe we do need speaker coaching. So it can help, not necessarily upsell, but just selling the benefits of some of the additional services that you might want to be able to offer a client. Well,
Fish on.
Bring him in.
That's a decent fish. That is a very decent fish. Put up a bit of a fight.
There. Yeah, he's tired now. He's tired now.
Get it on the scale.
Let's see what he weighs. 12.8, 12.9.
12.9. It looks like that's 1-0 to me, Stu. The nice early comment there.
Oh, we've got to give you a head start. I'm feeling quietly confident still. We're all right. From a event delivery perspective, obviously we're working, and personally we've worked on in the past a lot of overseas events. Fresh are actively looking to deliver more of those and are delivering more and more of those. What challenges are you seeing us face in that area?
I mean, Brexit is the obvious elephant in the room. It's quite a divisive subject, but there's no doubt that it was a bad thing for the events industry. There's been steps to try and mitigate that with trucking companies moving, branches in Europe and Ireland and stuff, but it's a huge problem. I spent most of my 20s and 30s traveling around Europe working. So that is a real issue, but it is what it is, and we have to try and work with it. So there are challenges, but I think in the production management space, there's still a lot of opportunity there. UK production management is classed as some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
If you look at things like Eurovision, is a huge UK contingent of crew in there, along with like Europeans, but a huge, and UK-based lighting designer. I think there's a huge opportunity for the design and the creative services of the UK.
It's definitely that global, local approach where clients want production management possibly delivered by the UK agency, but obviously kit resourced in the territory, which makes perfect sense, especially in Europe now. There's some very, very good and competent, more than good and competent kit suppliers in Central Europe, and building those relationships across the globe is definitely something I'm tasked with doing personally, and have been doing, and we've got a really good footprint in all those territories now. And then we can parachute in, might be too strong a word, but drop in our production management services, which the client really appreciates, to deliver to the level that they expect, using local technicians, but also have that production management piece delivered by UK specialists.
Yeah, I think most clients, when they come into one agency for stuff, are looking for continuity and continuity of quality, I guess.
We talked about pitches a little bit before. Something that I find a challenge, but we're interested to listen to you articulate what you find the challenges are. When you're working on a pitch or a proposal, and for whatever reason the client doesn't share the budget, I find that a real struggle, because every project has a budget. The client knows the budget. Could you maybe explain what some of the challenges we face from a production costing viewpoint when that budget isn't declared?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is with working out the budget is you can totally mishit the level of expectation, either up or down. And we've had both. If we were talking about the corporate world, those budgets are signed off, a year or so in advance, if not longer. So there will be a budget, and I guess the client doesn't want you to just go and spend that budget. It depends if it's a creative brief or if it's a very tight brief where they're just trying to get A and B done for as low a figure as possible.
So that comes down to building a relationship and partnership relationship with the agency. So that trust is there that you can share a budget. The budget isn't something you need to hit. The budget is a parameter that sets how you can then deliver the creativity and production value within that set allowance of budget, really.
Yeah, it is all about trust
Yeah.
and building a relationship with the client, and the client knowing that you're not just going to, try and spend all that money. And do you know, a lot of the time when you get given a budget, especially on, experienced clients or clients that do jobs regularly, they're normally about right for what they are, a lot of the time anyway. I've very rarely been given a budget that's massively more than the expected demand on a tight production brief. If it's a very creative, new or one-off job, that's a bit different.
Yeah, I think that briefing piece is important as well. I mean, a quality brief really helps you deliver the expectation that the client has. Often the challenge is they'll say they've got gold, silver and bronze, and they'll have a bronze budget but want gold. And that's when the disconnect already is. And it's having that open conversation at the beginning to say, well, you say you want a gold, silver and bronze, but what do you actually want against what budget? Where are your priorities of spend? How are you going to get the most value of spend back? The return on investment is really key there, and where they see that return on investment.
Yeah, there's also a huge amount of money wasted in agencies on pitching stuff that's never going to happen or is totally outside of the budget bracket that they want. Do you know what I mean? And then it's, oh, we're over budget or whatever. It's like, well, you've spent 10 grand leading us a merry dance.
Yeah.
Doing stuff that was clearly never going to happen. So, I mean, it is about that trust and about having the conversation. Look, we can actually, the better your brief and the more information you give us, the more efficient we can be in doing our job and not spend a load of time. One of the best jobs we've done this year, and we talked about it in the debrief for the job, was a job there we only had 6 weeks to deliver. And it was, we don't have time to mess about here.
Yeah.
We need to do this, this and this. And in this order, for this amount of money, the PO's been raised, there is no more money, that's it, and that's the time.
Focus everyone's mind then, doesn't
And it was one of the slickest pre-production jobs I've been on probably, in my career, really. It was because everyone was just focused on doing the job and knew exactly what they wanted to do and how much money they had to do it with. So, yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we could probably sit by the riverbank or the pond bank whittering on for hours, but we've got to go soon. And I know we've only caught the one fish, but as we said at the beginning, it's not really about the fish, is it?
It's not, and it's another lovely evening. Might stay for a bit, actually. How are you getting home?
I have no idea. Let's stay yours.